So just a few days ago, we got a massive amount of new information about the upcoming Google Pixel Foldable, which is apparently now going to be called the Pixel Fold. Now, I've already done a video where I showed you a bunch of renders, evidently, what this thing's going to look like. But in this video, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the things that we know about it, the specs, the cameras, so forth and so on. But we're also going to spend some time talking about why it is maybe my most anticipated device. If it's not number one, it's number two for this next year. I absolutely cannot wait to find out more about this thing, to get these specs confirmed, the appearance confirmed, and to eventually get my hands on this thing. I am so very excited. As someone who is a Z Fold 4 owner, and I really do adore the Z Fold line, I really think that this Pixel Fold is going to fix a lot of my problems with the Z Fold, and we're going to talk about that towards the end of this video, or maybe just sort of interspersed through this video. But to do this, we're going to use this Twitter thread where I kind of organize some things. This is what we currently think we know about the Google Pixel Fold. And if you've missed out on the imagery, I will be showing you stuff through these tweets as well. This is apparently what the Pixel Fold is going to look like. It does kind of have couldn't find my Pixel 7 for a second, a similar look to the Pixel 7 Pro, right? But what they've done here is where the frame on the Pixel 7 wraps all the way to the end. I should say the frame on the camera bump. It wraps all the way to the edge. On the Fold, it's going to stop. And that does make some sense because, I mean, look, if you could wrap it all the way on this side, but on the hinge, it's going to look a little bit weird anyways. It's not, you can't wrap it all the way around. It's a folding device. So they kind of went with a slightly different design here, but we do apparently have a 3-camera setup. So presumably a standard, an ultra-wide, and a telephoto. We'll talk about that a bit more. I still don't know what this weird little speaker grill is. I've not been able to find anybody answering this question. This is clearly an LED flash. This looks like a speaker grill, and there's something strange going on there that I can't quite figure out. You can see there's a hole punch selfie in the front. We're going to talk more about this, but look how thin this thing apparently is going to be. Let's dig in a little bit deeper here. So after years of working on a Z Fold competitor, I mean, there's nothing in North America, right? If you're looking for a phone in North America that can do this, you pretty much are buying a Z Fold, or you're importing something that may or may not work tremendously well in the United States. Well, that is apparently going to be going away. Now, unfortunately, when this thing launches in the May area, we were hoping it was going to be closer to like $1,400, and they are evidently going straight at Samsung and pricing this thing at the same price as the Z Fold 4, which is $1,799. A little bit disappointing there. I think a lot of us were really hoping that it would be cheaper, but if it's worth it, it's worth it. So we'll roll on from there. Now, rumors have stated that we'll be looking at a shorter and wider display than what Samsung has offered, and we're talking about the inner and the outer display. So if we look at this here, you can kind of see what we're talking about. Look at that cover display in that image, and look at the cover display here in my hand, and you will be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. That cover display looks much more like a normal phone than what we're getting here. Now, we initially thought, because we had leaks about the dimensions, the aspect ratio of that internal display, that we will be getting a cover display that will be actually quite short, something that will be much more similar to the Oppo Find N. But because the tablet display has this forehead and this chin, you wind up with a device that, on the flip side, the cover display actually gets a little bit taller because you don't have the forehead and the chin on the cover display. So you wind up with a tablet display that is wider than it is tall, and a cover display that is pretty much a normal phone, which I think is a really, really solid place to be. And it's important to know what that display inside is going to do for multitasking. When we talk about multitasking on the Z Fold line, often the biggest complaint from people that are on my channel, viewers of my content, is that it's too skinny. You wind up having to rotate it this way around, and at that point, it's a lot better. But with the Pixel Fold, you're basically going to get this appearance just straight out of the box, which I think most of us would agree is a little bit better than two very skinny split apps. Let's talk about the specifications now, because this stuff is very important, and we actually seem to know quite a bit. So under the hood, the system on a chip is apparently going to be the Tensor G2, which is the same processor that is in my Pixel 7 Pro over there, and it is absolutely fast enough. It is a very, very fast phone, and so I'm not worried about that Tensor chip at all. And of course, if it allows Google to implement some cool AI stuff, then all the better for it. The camera setup looks to be kind of in between the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro, which is a really good place to be as well. The 7 Pro is fantastic. The 7 is also very good, but it is apparently a very different camera setup to what we've got on those devices. So as far as the primary sensor, Evidently, and this is according to this Kuba person here who has been digging into the camera APKs from Google and then finding code name devices and specs related to them. And I've got that linked here and you can kind of read through that yourself. But this is apparently the Pixel Fold, a 64 megapixel IMX787 is the primary. Now, typically Google likes to keep the same camera sensor uniform across the board. They use that same 12 megapixel for a really long time. And now they've been using the same GN1 from Samsung. It's a 50 megapixel in the 6, the 6 Pro, the 7, and the 7 Pro. Now on the Pixel Fold, they're going with an IMX, which is a 64 megapixel sensor. This is a little bit strange, but it may, it may turn out to be a good decision. Gonna have to wait to see. The telephoto is going to be a 10 megapixel, which is an S5K3J1. We don't know what the magnification is because we don't know the actual lens on top of it. But I wouldn't expect, anything quite like what we have on the Pixel Pro, which is like a 5x telephoto. I don't think we're going to get anything like that. This is not something that I think with the thickness or the thinness, I guess I should say, of this device, I don't think you can fit a periscope zoom lens in something that is that thin. So I think we're probably going to be getting something more like a 2 or a 3x, which is absolutely fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, we have a 3x here. I think it's going to be totally fine. And then if they're able to do some of the crazy Google Pixel magic that they do, I think the telephoto performance is going to be quite admirable. And then as far as the ultra-wide, it is a 12 megapixel IMX386. So a lot of this stuff is fairly standard, right? The tele and the ultra-wide, pretty standard stuff. But the IMX787 is definitely a little bit of a head scratcher and might end up being a really good decision. It's very high resolution, and they're going to be able to do a lot with that. Although it is important to point out that the GN1 they were using before does actually have larger pixels, 1.2 micrometers versus, I believe, 0.08 micrometers on the 787. So there may be some difference there. Going to have to wait and see. Now, you may have noticed that there's a hole punch selfie camera on the cover display. But on that tablet screen, there is not a hole punch. And that is because the selfie camera is actually wedged up here in the actual bezel, the forehead of the Pixel 7 Pro. And that allows you just to have a very uniform tablet experience that doesn't have a camera in it. And I know that people will say, well, Samsung has the under display camera, and that's been their fix for it. And that's absolutely fair, but I think for a lot of us, I'd rather have something that's just in a chin or a forehead because to me, that under-display camera remains very, very visible, and the way that it shimmers and so forth is kind of a nightmare for me. So I am totally fine with them putting the camera in there, but it also, like I said earlier, serves to make it a wider aspect ratio. So let's picture split-screening apps on this thing. Look how wide. From there over, look how wide the split-screen apps are going to be on this thing. It's going to be a really nice multitasking experience. And of course, you're going to have the taskbar that the Z Fold has because that is an Android 12L feature. So that taskbar will be present. So again, this is looking like a really nice multitasking experience. The cover display should be 1080 by 2100 and the 7.6-inch tablet screen 1840 by 2208. And as you can read here, there's apparently not going to be an under-display fingerprint scanner either. Instead of having, a fingerprint scanner here and another one on the inside, they're doing what Samsung did. They're putting a fingerprint scanner in the power button, and I'm totally fine with that. I really like that solution. It works fine on my Duo, works fine on my Z Fold, and I'm happy with that. Going back to the thickness or thinness of this device, it is apparently going to be quite heavy. But look how razor thin this thing is. It reminds me of the Xiaomi Mi Fold devices. Incredibly thin, and it also apparently does fold totally flat, which is another thing that Samsung has not been able to do. My case here covers up the fact that, there's a gap here in the backside. Now, how will that, affect the crease on the screen? How will that affect the durability of the device? All of these things remain to be seen. But at any rate, if this is truly what it looks like, and you have to remember that this is rumor speculation. This is coming from John Prosser of Front Page Tech. So, he's been right about a lot of things. He's actually been very accurate in terms of pixel leaks. So I think we should have some confidence here. But again, it is not official, so keep that in mind. But if this is truly what it looks like, it is a very impressive piece of hardware. There are just a ton of things about all of this that makes me really, really excited to get to see this thing. Like I said before, I really do love my Z Fold, but there are some problems that I have with it. While I do think that this cover display is largely fine, right? It's usable. It's going to get the job done. It's just too skinny and it's too tall, okay? And I know I've had people say, I like the cover display. And if you do, great, keep buying the Z Fold. But I can't get close to reaching the top of that screen. Apps look a little strange on it. It's just a weird aspect ratio. There's a reason that phones, by and large, have the shape that they have, right? Like this is normal. So like if I can have a cover display that looks normal, then I'm going to be happier with that. Apps are going to be better off on it. And I think that that's what we're going to get here. But then, like I said earlier, on the inside, I like it to be more like a tablet, not something that is so tall. Something that is wider than it is tall makes more sense to me because I am a split screen multitasking person. Now, fair enough, Samsung has more multitasking stuff, right? They've got a ton of stuff added on top of that taskbar to make that a really nice experience. I'm not sure what Google's going to have here on the Fold. Even if it's just two apps side by side, though, the fact that they're going to be wider, I think, is going to give it a big advantage. I never have more than two apps going at once anyway, so that's going to be totally fine. Now, if this thing truly is as thin as this does appear to be, if it really does look like this, I think, this is subjective, I think this is a better looking device. I think the thing looks absolutely phenomenal. Now, the camera on the Z Fold is very good. It's actually really underrated, and I've done a video comparing this to the 7 Pro, and this really... it hung in there with the 7 Pro. So I don't think it's going to be blown out of the water by the Fold. But by and large, Pixel camera is very, very hard to beat in a lot of ways. And I think that, if they can pull that off here as well, and it's got a Pixel grade camera, something that's between the 7 and the 7 Pro, it's going to have one of, if not the best camera setups on any foldable device on the market. And I think that's definitely worth pointing out. Then you have all of the other Pixel goodness. If there was one phone, if I was going to put away my Surface Duo, put away my Z Fold, and use a normal old school phone, it would be my Pixel 7 Pro. And the biggest reasons, it's that Pixel magic, right? It's call screening. It's Magic Eraser, which I do think is quite good. Maybe not as good as some people seem to think it is. I think that there are some really good alternatives out there, but Magic Eraser is very good. Now Playing is a really, really nice feature as well. There's all of this just baked in Pixel goodness that I love and I miss, and just the look, the feel, the animations, I adore. And I think that, the Z Fold looks pretty good, but I'm still not a massive fan of One UI. It's better than TouchWiz. Don't get me wrong there. But I do think that I enjoy the look, the aesthetic of my Pixels better than Samsung. So, I think there's just a lot there for me that if I can have that Fold experience in the Pixel ecosystem with the Pixel stuff and the camera and all of these things, that's something I'm going to really, really want to be able to have. So hopefully I'm able to review this thing when it comes out in May. Hit that subscribe button just in case that happens so that you don't miss that review. I think though, whether or not you're a Pixel person or a Samsung, maybe you're listening to all this and you're saying, no, the Samsung, the Z Fold 5, when it comes out, is going to destroy this thing. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's how you feel. I think you should still be excited about the Pixel Fold because finally there's something in North America to push Samsung. We've been getting very iterative updates here with the Z Fold, and that's fine, right? We're getting slow upgrades. We've got the pin now. We finally have, improved camera setup as well, but it's not been anything massive because there's not really been a reason to. Who's pushing them to radically improve this device in North America? The answer is nobody. Even if you prefer Samsung, the fact that this is going to be in North America and really have a global release, apparently, this is good for everyone because it's going to push Samsung to really improve. We're going to have actual competition now, and that's good. That's going to make everybody better. Iron sharpens iron. So I am wildly excited about the Pixel Fold, and hopefully you are too. Guys, if you're new here, like I said, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.